Hi everyone. Today's lesson is probably pretty obvious, but maybe some of the numbers might be surprising. About debit and credit cards and the kind of interest rates you pay with credit cards, so you're aware once you graduate high school and end up in college or university, people will have booths set up on the campus and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to sign up for a credit card?" And it's something you probably should do because it's a good way to build credit, but you just don't want to let the debt build up. So my recommendation would be to get a credit card, but use it responsibly, pay it off each month, uh, and you build your credit rating. Banks know they can trust you, and so on. Okay, so probably pretty obvious, but a debit card is just accessing your bank account. So it's accessing money that you own. And so, you can take money out of a bank machine and so on. And you're not paying any interest on that because that's your money. A credit card, on the other hand, allows you to basically borrow money temporarily. And so you're getting money from, or a cash advance even, from a person that loans you money, right? And so you're paying interest for that when you do that. So the kind of interest rates, or other things to know about credit cards maybe for now. Some have annual fees. I refuse to ever have a credit card that has an annual fee. I'm their customer. I shouldn't have to pay to be their customer, is my thought on that one. So there's lots of credit card companies that are available that don't have annual fees. The other point I was talking about is if you pay the money you owe before the due date, you pay actually no interest at all. It's just if you don't pay it off when it's due. Okay. And so if you don't pay it off when it's due, you have very high interest rates, 20 to 30%. They compound interest daily on those because the balance each day is calculated. And so that means, of course, the absolute most interest on interest compounding effect is working against you and how much you owe. The interest is charged on the entire month's balance if you don't pay it all off, and then that minimum monthly payment has to be paid, or else it'll be a black mark on your like a bad mark on your credit rating. Okay. So we can just do our normal kind of calculations here. The difference is we'll use daily compounding, right? So we have a $5,000 balance on a credit card, and it's paid off by making minimum monthly payments of $88.03, and it's at 19.9% compounded per year. So we could determine how long it would take to pay off the debt if you just pay the minimum monthly payment. We could determine how much interest you end up paying on that, and you can determine how much this would change by paying more money than the monthly payment. So by paying a certain amount more or whatever. The only thing that's slightly unrealistic about this is I think your minimum payment would go down as time goes on, but not by much, mind you, because they don't get you to pay much more than what would pay it off, or what basically just much more than the interest, I should say. So you basically end up paying for a very, very long time. So as usual, TVM solver here, you can just GeoGebra TVM solver, Google search, and it should come up. And so we're going to have numbers put in here. So we have 19.9%. So 19.9%, we'll put that in. And we have $5,000 we owe, and eventually paying off to nothing. Payments per year is monthly, and compounding periods per year is daily, so 365. Actually, yeah, and paying monthly payments, that's right. So we set our minimum monthly payment, $88.03. We'll put that in as negative $88.03. Negative $88.03. And if things work properly here, everything's set up, we should be able to solve for the number of monthly payments. So we end up finding out that about 180 monthly payments is what that's telling us. Okay, so 180 divided by 12, of course, gives you a number of years if you wanted to look at it that way. Divide by 12. So it's 15 years you'd be paying off that $5,000 over. Um, solve again for that. So the 180. So if you're looking at here, so how long it would take, we can just screen capture that in, I suppose. That's okay. All right, so answer to part A would be 180 months. Part A, 180 approximately months. That's a long time. So determine how much interest you'd end up paying. Well, it's first in B. Let's just calculate total paid, which is those minimum monthly payments of 8803. And you're paying 180 of those. If we wanted to, we could do the 0.01, but it basically just means the same thing. So 8803 times 180. 8803 times 180 gives us $15,845.40. Wow, people that just let their minimum monthly payment ride over and over again, month to month, are paying a ton of interest on their loans. That is just craziness. It's such a high interest rate, especially, right? And they get it so you pay off like a very small amount each month because they want you to keep paying interest. That's how they make their money. Right? It's a business. You just don't want to be the person that funds that business. It's coming out of your pocket, right? So that's the total paid, and so then interest would have just been, of course, interest would be that number. Okay, that number, yeah, still have it there. Take away that 5,000. So it's pretty easy math there. We can see that it is going to be the $10,845.40 in interest. That deserves some exclamation points. So determine how this would change by paying more money than the minimum monthly payment. So maybe you're like, wow, I could afford $100 instead. Okay, so you just go into the TVM solver and make this be a 100 and enter whatever, solve for the new number of payments. And so what we have here, I just chose a value here, but we'd end up with 109 payments if you paid. Oh, that's not what I want. That in there, but I was going for the C answer here. So C, if $100 was paid monthly, so if you paid 100 monthly, the number of payments would reduce to 109. Total paid would be, of course, 109 times 100. Oops, times 100, which of course is easy to do. Just move the decimal places over a couple spots. So that's going to be 10900. And so if we want to put one of those little commas in, you can see total paid of 10,900 and interest would be 5,900. Right? So huge difference, right? Less than half the interest, around half the interest, if you paid 100 a month instead of 88. Okay? So just watch out for those credit card charges and letting that money grow month by month, day by day for such a long period of time. It's craziness, really. All right. So other things to watch for. already mentioned all that stuff. The other thing to watch for is these department store credit cards. So if you're in Home Depot or the Bay or Walmart might do it, I'm not sure. Um, they offer you these credit cards, right? So instead of paying now, sign up for a credit card, and they'll just put the balance onto the credit card. But this one from Home Depot, this is very recent. I just copied this from Google yesterday. 28.8% interest. Oh my God, that is a lot, right? So and they show you like the cost of borrowing for interest periods. Obviously, you calculate all these things, but that's just this is from their website. There's an additional fee of 2.8% for each cash advance, like just paying a ton of money. So watch out for department store credit cards. That's what this was supposed to be down here. Department store credit cards are crazy expensive. So even higher interest rates. They are crazy. So yeah, don't sign up for one of those. That's a terrible idea. Just make this look prettier here. So that's this part here, department store credit cards. This is an example of one that's actually a credit card. This is actually not a department store credit card. There are some companies. I just want to make sure you're aware. Like just watch for it. But no annual fee, and the interest rate is going to be probably normal, like the 19 or 20 or whatever's normal right now. But one thing to watch for the good of these things is there are like loyalty programs or points programs. So you can actually make a fair bit of money on points programs. So watch for points programs to get money back, let's call it, or whatever, right? So the Canadian Tire one, for example, just gives you Canadian Tire money on the card, and so you can buy stuff at Canadian Tire with the money that grows. So you collect Canadian Tire points everywhere you shop, basically, even more points at Canadian Tire than at other places. And there's lots. There's lots of different ones. There's an Air Miles one. So just encourage you, if you're getting a credit card, to look into getting one that has some benefits, and then make sure not to do this, not to let that balance accumulate interest for almost ever. All right. So just to see how calculations are done here, it should be pretty easy. But this person gets her first credit card statement and owes $360. Okay. If the balance is not paid, bad idea. But if the balance isn't paid, interest is just going to grow on that, right? And actually down here, this is just the way the textbook set it up. But really, there'd be actually additional fees for not making that payment, and you have a bad mark on your credit rating and all sorts of bad things. But this interest rate in here of 1.5, where's that coming from? Well, that's your 18% divided into that month. Truly, actually, you'd have that number divided into 365 pieces, and it would operate 28 times or to 31 times a month. But just for simplicity here, we're dividing that by 12 to get that 1.5%. Okay, so that's just your 18% divided by 12 to get the monthly rate. We could do better though with the TVM solver, and calculate the based on the daily rates as well. But this is just showing like the idea of how the calculations are, how they work. So obviously here you'd have your interest paid would be that's just from doing the 1.5% times the 360. The 1.5 divided by 100 times 360, and you'll see you get that same $5.40, and then so of course that adds on to the total, right? Now you owe this much money, and then you calculate interest on that same thing, so multiplying by 1.015 essentially, right? And now you owe this much money, you add that on to the total, and so on. And now you're doing interest on this number, and so you see how your amount you owe is growing, and already just in 3 months, you've paid $16.44 in interest. Okay, so those calculations, like I said, those are just using your formula for interest calculations, and So they're pretending it's just compounding month to year, which isn't true. It's actually compounding daily, but yeah, a lot of calculations, right? Even just to go 3 months, you'd have the around 30 times 3, right? 150 calculations in order to get to that point. If you're making a monthly payment of $10, much better idea, then the interest would have been calculated the same way, but your new balance would have just come from the 360, right? The 360 would have to add on the interest, but then we would take away the $10 payment, right? So that'll give you that 355.40, right? And then you have that new balance. You calculate a new amount of interest on, add it on, or and pay $10, and so the 355.40 plus the 533 minus the $10 gives you that new amount, and you just carry it out. Okay. The idea of like doing those calculations over and over and over again down the page are what that spreadsheet that I showed you yesterday really was doing. So in here, just calculating your monthly interest rate, dead easy, just divide by 12, no big deal. Calculating interest, that thing times the 1.0125, gives you your number. So those are all easy to do. Here is one where you can use DVM solver, but this is meant more to be done as a line by line calculation. So you could check with a TVM solver though, but I'll be expecting to see the work done line by line on that one. Okay. All right, so that's it for that one. I'll save that and post that for you and all that. If you have any questions, let me know. Talk to you later.